Well, one thing is we don't need more government in medicine. Our problems have all come from big government it being involved, and it's been there since the 1970s, and we've had managed care. It's managed care along with the inflation that has pushed the costs up. The medical care is reasonably good, but the main problem that the people have is they can't afford it, and they can't afford it because government's been involved. I've introduced a fair number of legislation that would return us to a more market delivery of medical care. There is no reason why services can't be delivered in the marketplace just like other goods and services. And unfortunately, we make an exemption for medical care, and we think the government has a right to do this, and people claim they have a right to medical care. You have a right to your life, and you have your right to liberty, but you don't have a right to a job, or you don't have a right to your house, and you don't have a right to medical care. But what we need to do is we need to change the tax code to make sure that individuals and small companies get the tax deduction just like big companies. We need to change the tort law. We need to legalize the sale of insurance across state lines. And there's quite a few things that we could do. There's quite a few things that we could do without dismantling what we have today. But eventually, though, it's going to be dismantled because the way we're going right now is more government involvement, and that means rationing. They are talking about rationing. If that Obamacare ever got passed, believe me, there would be rationing, and the services would just crumble, so we have to stop Obamacare, and I've worked real hard on trying to prevent that thing from passing.
All right, for the response. And for the final answer on this question, Congressman Ron Paul.
Well, I'm not going to try to say I'm going to spend the least amount of money in this campaign, because a lot of people have sent me a lot of money and want me to campaign and win the election again. But I can say one other thing, though. I have voted for the least amount of spending and the least amount of taxes of anybody in the Congress, and that's why they call me the taxpayer's best friend. But as far as state sovereignty goes, putting an amendment in the Constitution or whatnot, it's not going to make much difference. We need people there that are determined that every single vote they take, they look at the Constitution. And I do that. If it's unconstitutional, I don't vote for it. And I have promised I would never raise taxes. If it raised taxes, I never vote for it. But Article 1, Section 8 gives us those 20 things that we're allowed to do. And if it's not there, I just don't vote for it. The 9th and 10th Amendments are great amendments, and we should follow them. But there is a responsibility for the states when we don't do our jobs in Washington, and we need that too. We need nullification and interposition. And if that would be the case, Congress would be much more cautious about passing all these laws. They never intended that the states would be so beholden to the federal government. The states should be almost independent states. The reason we had the convention was to have a sound monetary system and also have a free trade zone. Those were the reasons we had it. We shouldn't have all the federal government running our states.
Thank you very much. Dr. Paul.
I think we the people means that we're in competition with the government. The people are supposed to be running the government, but we are at a point now where the government is in conflict with us. Patriotism is closely related to this. So often people think patriotism is obedience to the government, even when it does wrong and you can't say anything. If they do something wrong on foreign policy, don't say anything, or you're disobedient and you're unpatriotic. But we, the people, are the people themselves and what they believe in. And if you support the people, then you are challenging the government when they get out of bounds. But unfortunately today, we have too many people that think that the government's going to take care of us. A lot of people think that it's always the majority, but we the people, very often, just like in this room, you're individuals who are interested in politics. Most people don't get interested until the day of the election. But the people have to have leaders, and the leaders are the one who influence the majority of the people. So there is something to be said that sometimes we, the people, are represented by leaders who understand what the Constitution is all about, what liberty is all about, and they represent we, the people. And that's why I think the Tea Party movement is so important, because they are representing we, the people, even though they don't have 51% of the votes. It's a small group, but they are speaking out, and Washington has heard about it, and you're getting your attention. So I would say we, the people, are now having an influence on Washington.
All right. For his closing statement, here to seal the deal, Dr. Ron Paul.
Thank you. One thing I noticed so far in the discussion and debate that we've had is nobody up here is really screaming out, we want bigger government, we want more spending, we want more deficit. So I think in quite a few ways we would have some agreement, but obviously there must be some disagreement in order for us to have a contest and challenge me in a race. And I think I understand it because I'm a stickler. I am a stickler for the Constitution. I vote no a lot. And sometimes I wonder why that is the case. You know, and I'm not ashamed of this. I have voted no by myself more times than everybody else put together because I want to make that point that if you go along, to get along, you have to go along is the principle up there. So if you give an inch, you have to give a mile to work in the system. But you have to know what you believe in, and you have to be strong enough to stand firm. That is what we need. You need a full understanding of the Constitution as well. But the ultimate goal for me is the protection of liberty. The Constitution is wonderful. It is not perfect. But what motivated me to get involved in politics has been the protection of liberty. I am convinced that a free society, when you have a right to your life, it's a God-given right, and we should protect all life, and you have a right to your liberty, you ought to have a right to all the fruits of your labor. If this would be the case, we would be free and prosperous. But to do that and endorse the idea that we have to have constant wars going on, wars that are never declared, I mean, this is a total neglect of the Constitution. We actually start wars these days. We shouldn't be starting wars. That's aggression, and we shouldn't do it. Woo! We should live up to our Constitution, and only Congress can declare the war, and the president should never be allowed to go to war in an undeclared war. We need to be sticklers for the Constitution.
Yeah! All right, All right, we now turn. Thank you. All right, we now turn for his closing statement. He's got 2 minutes.